Welcome back to Switch to Linux. As you can tell, I'm wearing a different shirt today. I am wearing my web developer's shirt because we are going to start today doing some WordPress tutorials. A lot of people have asked me about some WordPress tutorials, and that's what I've been developing in for several years. And part of the reason I'm doing these videos is because I have had to do individual client videos, most of which covered almost all of the same stuff for a while. And so what I'm going to do is basically categorize every type of video into individual small tutorial clips. So some of these are going to be very short, but that's okay. The idea is we're going to take a lot of these different items, and we are going to I'll be able to piece together different programs and playlists based upon the types of things someone needs to do. So like anything I like to do in teaching is I like getting back to the foundations. I don't just want to say, hey, here's WordPress, let's get started. I want to talk a lot about a lot of things that we see because there are some misconceptions in what WordPress is, what WordPress can do. And I want to talk about all those types of things, and then I want to talk about what you can do with WordPress, what can you do as an individual without any web development, and when is it time to actually bring on a developer and pay a developer things. You know, even me, you think about not wanting to have a developer on it. You know, some of my clients that have WordPress sites, they don't pay me more than, some of them even pay me a little bit less than $100 a month just to do some basic maintenance stuff. WordPress for me a lot of times makes it easier for me to go through and do some adjustments. So if you want to have a website and you want to have me in your back pocket to help, fix things when they come along, if your site's in WordPress, I usually can fix things faster than if your site is basic HTML for a lot of interesting reasons. But what I want to get into here is, I guess first, I didn't include it on my list, but I guess the first thing is why use WordPress? Now, one of the negatives is WordPress has tried to bill itself out as yet another one of the options and solutions that anybody can use. And the fact of the matter is, no, without having knowledge in web design or best practices or some basic skill, it's not something that you're going to want to jump in. It's not like in none of these things, whether it be Wix or whether it be Squarespace or any of these things, none of these products or services, be they free or paid, are actually that good where a novice person can come in and develop these beautiful websites. I cannot tell you the number of times somebody comes to me, says how much for a site, I tell them, they buy into Wix marketing or whatever, they start doing the website over there, and then they come back to me, it's like, well, I got this started, but I can't do this, 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 can you do that? And it's like, yeah, it's going to be double the amount of money if I did this to begin with. Because those platforms, including WordPress, are not all that easy to work with. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that this is not a platform that you're going to be able to set up, install, work, and never have to work with a developer, because you will need a developer at some point in time unless you don't want a good site. You also want to make sure that you have time to dedicate to keeping the thing up to date. I actually have a client in across the world from me, I'll put it that way, who did not maintain their site at all. The thing kept on getting hacked. It was on my servers, and so I had to shut the thing down a few times because the thing kept getting hacked. I'm like, you have to update it. WordPress needs updated. You need to make sure you have backups. And the person was like, well, it's supposed to be secure. Yes, it is secure, but you got to back it up and you got to update it. So you got to make sure that you have the time invested. And that's why if you have a WordPress site, I actually offer a very inexpensive backup plan for WordPress sites. You can contact me at the business at westernmountainweb.com, and I will get back with you with information on that. But let's talk first about the types of WordPress sites that you will get, because you will hear a few terms thrown around, and I want to clarify what they are. There is hosted WordPress sites and there is self-hosted WordPress sites. Okay, so a hosted WordPress site means that all of the back-end management and things is on somebody else's system. The most secure of these is to actually host your site on WordPress.com, which will enable you to either get for free, your username .wordpress.com, or for a small fee, I think every year, and it's pretty cheap. You can get a domain name and do a domain, just your basic domain name.com, but everything is on WordPress. And so if there is a challenge somewhere, then usually what happens is WordPress support can help take care of some of those. Now, the danger of doing a site build on WordPress.com is you lose all customizability. You are limited in the themes you can install. You cannot make any adjustments to the themes. You are limited in the plugins you can install, and you have no control. And if something goofy, and I've seen things go goofy on those, you have no recourse other than if their support can help you out. Because sometimes files or whatever get corrupted, and, I've seen a few cases of that where things got broken. Now, that's not my recommended mode of action, but it's not like super duper universally bad. The universally bad are the hosted WordPress sites through other companies. GoDaddy WordPress hosted sites, Bluehost WordPress hosted sites, etc., etc., etc. The reason is, first, these guys put bloated, crappy plugins in there, and they just make a mess out of thing. Second is many, not all of these, but many of these accounts restrict your FTP access, so you don't have WordPress support, but you still don't have the ability to adjust your files. You still can't do anything custom with these sites. And so you absolutely want to avoid any hosting site. So if you know you want WordPress and you go to GoDaddy and you type in GoDaddy and you go through their little questionnaire and you're like, I want to do WordPress, they're going to offer you GoDaddy's secure WordPress hosted sites. You still got to run backups, which you will probably forget to do. You don't have the file control access. I think GoDaddy finally does give you that now, but I'm not sure. But then you get all their bloated crap in the background that you do not want. And so never use the hosted sites from a external hosting company. If you want a hosted site, do a hosted site at WordPress.com. Now, the best of all worlds, there are disadvantages, but the very best way to do it is to use a self-hosted WordPress install. This means you have your own server. You're paying for your server, which on a shared server is as cheap as a few bucks a month. And then you are installing WordPress and you are managing it because you have the maximum amount of customizability. Now, the downside of this, of course, is you really do need to have that developer in your back pocket. That's not a super downside, but it's a little bit of a downside. And what you need to do with that is you need to make sure that you are updating it. You need to make sure your plugins are up to date. And you just need to be a little bit more on top of it than if it's at WordPress.com where they automatically push the latest versions of everything. And so you want to run the self-hosted type platform most of the time. You will have the ability to customize things. And if you call me up because you're having WordPress problems and you're at WordPress.com, I can do some stuff for you, but I can't do a lot. But if you can give me FTP access to your site, I can do anything in your WordPress install that you need. That's kind of the way. Now, use your self-hosted, but let's talk about how you install. If you go to WordPress.com and download, it's WordPress.org. WordPress.com is the business end where you can get your WordPress hosted site. WordPress.org is where you actually go to get your theme files, your core base of your program, your updates, and your community support. So go to WordPress.org, download WordPress, and install it from there. What you do not ever want to do is suppose you do have your hosting panel, you know you want WordPress, and so you have a quick install in the back. So it's either going to be called quick install or it will be called Fantastico, which I don't think Fantastico actually exists anymore. Any one of a variety of these different tools and resources out there that are used to auto install. Now, the advantage of the auto installers is you don't have to mess with the FTP and you don't have to mess with the database creation. But I will tell you, you want to learn the database creation and the FTP. If you have this self-hosted account, learn how to do those things. Those are basic things you need to know. Okay. And they're not hard. They're not hard at all. And maybe I'll do some extra tutorials just on those. The reason I'm not going to do it here in these WordPress tutorials is because there's a few good standards like cPanel that is the same across any hosting account that you get cPanel on. But then there's a whole bunch of other hosting accounts that do things in weird ways, and you can't possibly begin to do all of them. So check with your hosting company. Any good hosting company is going to have documentation on how to create a database and how to create an FTP user. And when you create your FTP user, make sure you give it root access to your thing, like not root access like in Linux terms, root full control, but you need to give that FTP user the ability to access all of the files on your server, because the default for a lot of the FTP creation programs creates the user inside of its own little folder, and those types of things are completely useless. I've encountered one purpose for those, and that is that I might give a client FTP access to my server to dump big files, because I don't want to mess with Dropbox if I don't have to. So that is what you want to do. So this advantage of the self-hosting, you got to know how to set up the database, and you got to know how to set up the FTP account. And the reason you do not want to use the one-click auto installers is because, again, they bloat a lot of excess crap in there. The one that drives me the most crazy is they install one of the caching plugins. I can't remember if it's WC Total Cache or I forget which one it is, but it's one of the caching programs. And the problem is you never, ever, 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 ever want a caching program on when you are still developing your website. Never. Never. It is counterproductive, because a caching site takes a copy of your file, a copy of your site, and pushes an HTML version to people who come and see it. You will not be able to make changes and see them. It's like baffles my mind why they include this stupid thing. And they included one that has to screw around with a WP config file, and you do not want that. Okay? If you want to install a caching program, and there are many reasons why you want to do that, if you want to install that caching program, then do that last. Your site is ready to go. Everything's up. It's been tested. In fact, I'd even wait a few weeks before you launch the caching program, because you want to get all the bugs worked out. Then you install the caching plugin of your choice, and you activate it at that point in time. You don't want to be messing with a caching plugin when you're trying to make changes, because you're going to constantly have to go in, flush the cache, flush the cache, flush the cache, and you'll totally forget about it. You'll do some change. You'll be like, I can't figure out why this is working. WordPress sucks. And then you'll leave. It's because these stupid Fantastico, or whatever they're all called now, installs the auto cache plugin. You don't want that. So I don't want any plugins installed on my WordPress install when I first put it up. All right. And so let's see. So that's your how to install. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a how to install here. Okay. So I'm on my desktop here, and what I'm doing, the way I'm running my setup, this is a completely different setup than you will possibly ever use, because what I'm doing is I'm running an Ubuntu server over here. And this Ubuntu server over here is actually pushing a full MySQL, whatever, a LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, PHP, MySQL stack. So as long as this server's running, I'm going to be able to have access to a domain called example.com, which for the whole rest of the world doesn't actually, it goes somewhere else. It's a real website. But for my purpose here, because I do not want to be doing any of my tutorials on some live thing here, if I go to www.example.com on this site, it's going to take me to this is my basic internal. So I've given this Ubuntu machine this type of server here. If you want to know how to do this, this has neat applications. If you want to do something like install any web-based, maybe a client management system or whatever else on a local computer without ever needing to do anything on any other computer, this is a great way to do it. If you want to see how to do this, go ahead and let me know, and I'll do a video on that. But I've created this LAMP stack, and I've created an FTP user over here. Of course, you can see here is my example.com. Now, again, this setup is going to be completely different. It's going to totally depend on how your hosting is set up. So you're going to have to consult your hosting account to figure out that part. But we're going to show you how to install WordPress. The other things that you need to do is you need to set up a database. So I've already gone into my Ubuntu server here, and I've established a WordPress database. You're going to need to know the database user, the database name, and the database password, which I put right over here, and I don't care if you see it or not because it's totally stupid information that is only available if you have access to only this computer and only when that server's turned on. So we're safe. We're in the clear, and I just wanted to do it this way so you guys have the absolute most visual cue as to what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm going to try and remember that my camera is in the upper view up here. I like putting my camera up there for a little brand thing, so I'm going to try and remember that throughout here. But what we're going to do is I've already gone to WordPress.org and I have downloaded the WordPress file. So if you just go to WordPress.org, you'll see this link up here to download WordPress. Let me just go ahead and snap that way. I'm just going to do this to make sure I'm out of view of the camera there. Okay, so just click on this guy here to download it, and then you'll see you have your main options. I usually just download the zip file, just because I usually just download these and unzip them on the desktop and drop them into the server. You can download the full tarball there if you want. But I've went ahead and already downloaded this. This is always going to give you the latest WordPress to start. And so over here is my WordPress. And so I'm just going to extract this onto my desktop. So I'm using Linux Mint Cinnamon here as my desktop, as my computer. So what I'm going to do is, depending on how your server is set up, your server might look at a PHP file first. It might look at an index file first. What I would do is if you have an index.html, HTML, and PHP, or any other file in here, I'd get rid of that file first. Because that could very possibly interfere with what you're doing. So now I want to drop this directly onto my public root. So what we're going to do, and WordPress has this thing, it's called the famous 5-minute installation. All right. All I'm going to do literally is take those files from that zip folder, unzip them here where it says WordPress. I'm going to take the files from inside WordPress and I'm going to simply drop them on my server. Now it's moving so fast here because, I'm on a local computer or to a local computer. So you'll see here that it's adding the files pretty quick. Once it is done, now usually I drop these files on, and this will usually take about 5 minutes. So I drop these files on first, and then I go create my database. That worked pretty quick because I'm working right here. All right. So what we're going to do now is I want to go to example.com. That's going to call my index.php page. And since I've never done anything here with WordPress before, it's going to go ahead and run the auto installer. Of course, I might have to refresh the page a couple times to make that work. So here it's telling us what we're doing is we need the database name, we need the database username, we need the database password, we need the database host, which on almost every instance is going to be simply localhost, all one word. A few cases, if you're running an old GoDaddy server, change servers. But some bad hosting companies, your database will not be localhost, in which case they're going to tell you how to access your database. You want that information. It'll be something blah, 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 dot, blah, 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 dot, blah, blah, blah. You want to paste that in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push the let's go. Now, under the database name, this is whatever you called your database. I called mine WDPRSDB. And usually it's standard to use the same database name and the username. Some hosting companies will not even give you the choice. And the reason you generally do use the same database name versus the username for the database is that your typical hosting account might have, X number of databases. You need to be able to keep track which databases belong to which users and vice versa. And so by keeping the databases and the usernames the same, that's the way you do. Now your password, and notice here, just be warned that this is all done in the clear. Generally, this is not a problem. Some people might flip out. No, it's generally not a problem. I called mine really Password. Password. Database is host is localhost, and table prefix, you can just keep this. If you want to run multiple different WordPress installations from a single database, you would change this to keep track of which prefixes are which. I usually just go ahead and keep this the same. Go ahead and push the submit, and it can't write to the WP config file. You will probably not have that problem. In my case here, the reason is probably because I think I had to change the owner for the FTPs. I don't know. I should have tested this before we did it. But if it works, then you will just go ahead and run the install, and then it'll be fine. In this case here, it gives us this file. We're just going to copy this file, and I'm going to come into my WordPress, and I'm going to take my WP config sample, and I'm going to actually edit this to say WP config, and I'm going to open this up and paste in the content of that file that they gave me. So this is the information that they've given me right here. And I'm hoping I don't run into some other problems. If I do have some other problems, I'm going to do a little bit more testing. And if I do have more problems, I'm going to fix it for the next tutorial. All right, so we need to drop this file back in our root. So you'll see it'll be right here, WP config. And I'm going to go ahead and push the run the install. All right, so the only hiccup we had there, and some of your hosting companies will cause that problem, some of them will not. Usually that has to do with the permissions on the file server. Since mine is a LAMP stack I built, it's a whole lot more restrictive than a lot of your hosting companies. So you should not encounter that problem. So we're going to call this example WordPress. For your username, avoid usernames like admin, which used to be the standard, just because admin is now being used by a lot of hackers to try and brute force passwords. And so I'm just going to call mine, I will call mine example admin. And then here it's going to automatically give you a nice strong password. I'm going to do something that I'm going to be able to remember. So I'm actually just going to use simple pass 5, which is going to be flagged as a really weak password. Nope, except I want the I to be lowercase. Oh, it's actually medium. And then you need to input the email here. This is going to be your administrative email. I'm just going to do some email at someplace.com, which probably exists. But we're just going to do that because I don't care. The thing's not going to be sending me any emails. Now here, discourage search engine from indexing the site. Generally, I do not check this box. You might want to check this if you're on a public development site. Like if you're developing it public, you might want to check that because you can uncheck it later. I generally just keep it unchecked. It's not a problem. Basically what this does is it will add a robots.txt file that says that tells Google and other sites that obey that file to not add this site to the index. I'm going to go ahead and run the install. And so you'll see that it will give me the information, and now I can just go ahead, come over here, and I can log in. So I did the example admin and SIMPLEPASS5 is what I did. Okay, so now we are in our dashboard. So the reason I like doing the install just like this is very, very simply because I do not want to. I do not want to have to mess with all the bloatware that they add. Now, the default WordPress does unfortunately give us 2 pieces of bloatware. So go right into the plugins. Hello Dolly is, I hate the fact this is in here. I would petition WordPress to remove it. And the reason is, it really, all it does is it gives you cute little phrases up here in your administrator dashboard. But the downside is a lot of hackers, since this is like on every single WordPress install, a lot of hackers will take this file and hack it. And I'm going to show you where this file is. If you come over here into your, gotta wait for my server to wake up. You come over here into your plugins file, you'll see it's right here at hello.php. So hello.php is very innocuous. It's just right here. Everyone's used to seeing this file. So a lot of scammers will take a file, call it hello.php, and it's an internal worm into your file. So I kill it. You can actually kill it right here in the FTP protocol, but the best way to do it is over here. Now, Ask Me Anti-Spam, this is if you happen to have an account with them, you can use it. It's basically a way to protect your blog from spam. Most people don't. They don't have any free accounts. So I just go ahead and drop those off and use other things. So I just click everything in here, go under bulk action, and I'm going to delete. So that will kill out any plugins. Now, again, this is something some GoDaddy servers will have this problem, and some of them, most of them will not. You will likely not encounter this step. What you see, if this box shows up, it means that the permissions on your database file are not working right, or basically it's just telling me that my server cannot interact with the file structures properly. Probably has to do simply with permission files. I'm going to go ahead and fix those, but basically all this is asking for is your FTP information. So in my case, my FTP information is my host, which is just my my IP address that you can see at the top of the page up there. This is just a nice little tool that gives me the IP address. And I think I have WPFTP as my username, and I have that same crazy password. By the way, you never want to use the same passwords over like I'm doing here. I'm just doing these because I know that this is going to work. And hit proceed, and it will enable you to delete it. So I'm going to fix my file permissions on this before we do our next video, but that way it'll be closer to what you see. But the good news is, if you will generally not see that dialog box. If you do, it just means enter your FTP credentials, which is another reason to have your FTP credentials. I know WordPress or GoDaddy servers used to have that problem. I don't think they do anymore. Now, the next thing I do is I come in here, and you always want to delete every theme you are not using. You never want extra themes in here, because every extra file on your server is an extra hacking target, especially these default themes. And every time you update WordPress, it's going to add a new one. It's going to be like constantly wanting you to update these. Best just to kill them out. So decide which theme you want. To pick a theme, just view it here and hit the activate. We'll go ahead and use the 2015 just so you can see how you change a theme. And then to delete these, I'm just going to come over here, click it, and push the delete in the bottom right corner. Again, it wants all this information again. So actually the second one, I'm going to show you how to do it another way. Okay. Oh, I typed my password incorrectly. There it goes. The other way you can do this is directly from inside here. In fact, we're going to go ahead and refresh this. You'll see that there's nothing in the plugins directory because we deleted those. You'll see that 2015, which is the theme we have, and 2016 is the theme that's there. Do not delete the theme that you have activated. You will probably have to get a developer to get the theme back. Now, if it's something easy, like if it's 2015 and you accidentally delete it, the way you fix it is you go online, download 2015 theme, and drop it back in the folder. So the other way you can do is just go ahead in your FTP protocol, just delete it, refresh the page, you'll see 2016 is gone. Okay, so that's how you do that. Now, WordPress will also give you one page as a sample page. I send that to the trash and then come over here to the trash, and I'm going to delete the trash. And they do the same for comments and posts, but if you delete the post that's attached, that the comment's attached to it, will delete the comment with it. Okay, so now if we actually load up our page, and the way I always like to do this is up here, go to your example WordPress, which is going to be the name that you chose, and I like right-clicking and opening this in a new tab. This way I have a full dashboard on one hand and I have the WordPress on the other. So you'll see here, we have no information. It can't find a page, it can't find a post, it can't find anything. That is our default installation for WordPress. So what we are going to do next time is we're going to talk about just some basic how to manage posts, how to manage themes. Let me know in the comments the exact order, because right now there's no specific order of things we need to do. So let me know in the posts below or the comments below which you would like to see next. All right, so there was some basic information there to get you started on WordPress. Again, I encountered a few little things that'll happen on some servers, but not most of them. Particularly if you get a hosting account, if you're looking for a hosting account, look for one that has cPanel. It's going to be the easiest to use and the most available online resources to learn how to do certain tasks. Very easy for database management, very easy for FTP access management, and you won't encounter the few bugs that I encountered there, which are due to the fact I just need to do a couple permission changes in my server, and I'll take care of that. With that, let me know in the comments below the next things that you would like to see. If you want to see more of these tutorials, also let me know that. I am planning on doing a full suite of them, mostly to help my clients to understand a little bit about how to manage a site. This is if you're wanting to run a site yourself. This is a good place to start, but a lot of my clients, I build it out for them, but they still need to know how to manage some aspects of the back end. So we're going to talk about that in some future videos. If you'd like to help support this channel with the tutorials at Switch to Linux, you can help me at patreon.com/TomM, or I have Amazon links in the comments below. You can go ahead and click on the links there, shop at Amazon, and that will send a small portion of the sale to us. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux and using WordPress.